Baseball has always loved its redemption stories, the fallen stars who climb their way back to the heavens. But rarely has a star risen so high, fallen so fast, and fought so hard to reclaim his place in the game as Fernando Tatis Jr. Once upon a time, Fernando Tatis Jr. was the face of baseball's future, electric, fearless, and already a superstar at just 22 years old. The kid who played with unbridled joy, the talent that couldn't be contained, the player who made you stop what you were doing just to watch him play. But in the blink of an eye, everything changed, suspended, doubted, written off by many. Tatis found himself fighting not just for his career, but for his legacy. And now he's proving everyone wrong. Fernando Tatis Jr. was born with baseball in his blood, the son of former Major League Fernando Tatis Sr., who once made history by hitting 2 grand slams in a single inning. But the younger Tatis wasn't just inheriting a legacy, he was destined to create his own. Growing up in San Pedro de Macorís, Dominican Republic, a city known as the cradle of shortstops, young Fernando was surrounded by the game. His father's major league career gave him a front row seat to what excellence looked like. But no one could have predicted just how quickly he would surpass even the loftiest expectations. After being traded by the White Sox organization before ever playing a professional game, a move Chicago would later deeply regret, Tatis rocketed through the Padres farm system. His combination of power and speed was something scouts described as once in a generation. On March 28, 2019, at just 20 years old, Fernando Tatis Jr. made his major league debut. No extended minor league seasoning, no easing into the big leagues. The Padres knew what they had, a transformative talent who belonged on the biggest stage. But what made Tatis truly special wasn't just his statistical brilliance, it was how he played the game. The gravity-defying leaps, the daring base running, the emphatic bat flips that sent crowds into a frenzy. In a sport often criticized for its rigid traditions, Tatis played with an infectious joy and flair that drew new fans to baseball. He wasn't just playing the game, he was reinventing it, one spectacular moment at a time. By 2021, Fernando Tatis Jr. had become unavoidable. Whether you were a diehard baseball fan or someone who couldn't name 3 active players, you knew who Tatis was. The impossible to ignore talent, the magnetic personality, the $1 million smile. He wasn't just a baseball star, he was a cultural phenomenon. The Padres recognized what they had and moved to secure their cornerstone. In February 2021, they signed Tatis to a 14-year, $340 million contract. At the time, the 3rd largest deal in MLB history and the longest. For a player with barely 2 seasons under his belt, it was unprecedented. But so was Tatis. The numbers justified the investment. Through his first 273 games, Tatis had amassed 81 home runs, 52 stolen bases, and a .956 OPS. He was on a statistical pace that put him alongside names like Trout, Griffey, and Rodriguez. The comparisons to all-time greats weren't premature, they were backed by performance. Corporate America took notice. Adidas signed him to a multi-year deal. He became the face of MLB. The show video game, Gatorade, BMW, and other major brands wanted the Tatis effect. His jersey sales ranked among the league leaders. In a sport desperate to connect with younger audiences, Tatis was baseball's answer. On the field, the 2021 season was shaping up to be his masterpiece. 42 home runs, 25 stolen bases, a legitimate MVP candidate leading the Padres in a heated NL West race. The future wasn't just bright, it was blindingly so. But with superstardom comes scrutiny. With groundbreaking contracts comes pressure, and sometimes with youthful confidence comes poor decision-making. No one could have predicted how quickly the fairy tale would transform into a cautionary tale. The trouble began in the off-season following 2021. Reports emerged that Tatis had suffered a motorcycle accident in the Dominican Republic. Not one accident, but multiple incidents, according to some sources. For a franchise player with a history of back and shoulder problems, it was reckless at best. disastrous at worst. The consequences were immediate, a fractured wrist that required surgery. The Padres announced he would miss up to 3 months of the 2022 season. Fans were disappointed, management was frustrated, but everyone assumed it was simply a setback in an otherwise ascendant career. Then on August 12, 2022, the bombshell dropped. As Tatis was nearing his return from injury, Major League Baseball announced he had tested positive for clostebol, a performance-enhancing substance banned under MLB's drug policy. The penalty, an 80-game suspension that would wipe out the remainder of 2022 and extend into 2023. Tatis claimed the banned substance came from a medication he took to treat ringworm, without checking its contents. Whether you believed his explanation or not, the damage was done. The player who seemed destined to be the face of baseball for a decade had become its latest cautionary tale. The public reaction was swift and brutal. Fans who had defended his playing style now questioned his character. Media members who had celebrated his talent now debated his integrity. And perhaps most painfully, his own teammates, led by veteran pitcher Mike Clevenger, publicly criticized his maturity and commitment. For the Padres, the situation was nightmarish. They had committed generational wealth to a player who now wouldn't play a single game in 2022, a player whose judgment was being questioned throughout the sport, a $340 million investment that suddenly looked far more risky than it had just months earlier. The questions followed one after another. Would Tatis ever be the same player without PEDs? Had his reckless off-field behavior revealed a character flaw that would derail his career? Was Fernando Tatis Jr. destined to join the sad list of prodigious talents who flamed out before reaching their potential? For the first time, the baseball world wondered, was the Tatis era over before it truly began? Away from the spotlight while serving his suspension, Fernando Tatis Jr. had a choice to make. He could allow the narrative surrounding him to become reality, or he could rewrite it. By all accounts, he chose the harder path. The suspension period became a time of reconstruction, not just of his body, but of his approach to the game and his professional responsibilities. He underwent a second shoulder surgery to address a problem that had plagued him since his rookie season. He worked to strengthen his wrist, but more importantly, according to those close to him, he worked to strengthen his mindset. Reintegration with the team wouldn't be automatic. Trust had been broken. When he rejoined the Padres in April 2023 after serving his suspension, there was work to be done in the clubhouse. "I failed," Tatis admitted to the media. "I failed the front office. I failed the fans. I failed my country. I failed my family. I'm really sorry." On the field, Tatis faced a new challenge, with Ha-Sung Kim performing admirably at shortstop during his absence. The Padres asked Tatis to move to the outfield. For a natural shortstop who had never played outfield professionally, it was another test of his commitment to redemption. What happened next surprised even his supporters. Tatis didn't just accept his new role, he excelled in it. His natural athleticism translated perfectly to the outfield. His powerful arm became a weapon that runners tested at their peril. By midseason, he wasn't just an adequate right fielder, he was one of the best defensive outfielders in baseball. At the plate, the old electricity returned, even if the numbers didn't immediately match his pre-suspension heights. 25 home runs, 29 doubles, an .815 OPS across 141 games. Not quite the MVP level production of 2021, but proof that the fundamental talent remained intact. Perhaps most telling was what didn't happen. The elaborate celebrations were more measured, the post-home run preening less pronounced. Tatis seemed to understand that actions would speak louder than any bat flip. He let his play do the talking, and gradually the conversation around him began to change. Now in 2025, the question lingering around Fernando Tatis Jr. is straightforward but complicated. Is he back? The answer depends entirely on how you define back. Statistically, there's evidence pointing both ways. His power numbers haven't fully returned to 2021 levels. The batting average fluctuates, but other aspects of his game have evolved. His defense in right field has been nothing short of revolutionary. His base running remains elite, and crucially, his availability has improved. The player once considered injury-prone has become remarkably durable. In the court of public opinion, the verdict remains split. Some fans have fully embraced his redemption arc. celebrating each achievement as confirmation of his renewed commitment. Others maintain a wait-and-see approach, needing more time and evidence before fully reinvesting emotionally. The baseball world remain equally divided. Some analysts argue he'll never fully escape the PED shadow, that there will always be an asterisk in the minds of Hall of Fame voters and baseball historians. Others counter that his post-suspension performance, achieved under what is presumably the most rigorous testing regimen, validates his natural talent. Perhaps most telling is the assessment of those who know him best, his teammates. The same clubhouse that once questioned his commitment now frequently cites his work ethic and leadership. Veteran players who were once his harshest critics have become his strongest advocates. In the ultimate team sport, that internal redemption may matter more than any external validation. What's certain is that Fernando Tatis Jr. isn't the same player who burst onto the scene in 2019. He's not the same person who made headlines for all the wrong reasons in 2022. Whether that evolution has made him better or diminished him depends entirely on what you value in a baseball player and in a redemption story. The story of Fernando Tatis Jr. remains unfinished. The final chapter is yet to be written. At just 25 years old, his career trajectory could still go in countless directions. The heights he once reached remain within his grasp. The mistakes that nearly derailed him remain as cautionary signposts in his rearview mirror. What makes his journey compelling isn't just the spectacular talent or the dramatic fall. It's the universal struggle his story represents. The search for redemption after public failure. The battle to reclaim not just success, but respect. Love him or hate him, Fernando Tatis Jr.'s story forces us to confront our own beliefs about forgiveness, second chances, and the capacity for growth. It asks us whether we truly believe people can change, whether past mistakes must forever define future potential. In a sport built on failure and persistence, where even the greatest hitters fail 7 times out of 10, perhaps there's no more fitting place for a redemption story like his to unfold. The only question is, how will it end? Is Fernando Tatis Jr. officially back? Has he done enough to redeem himself in your eyes? Let us know in the comments below. Subscribe for more baseball stories and hit that notification bell to stay updated on all our latest videos.